Hello, we are finally getting into chapter 1, Confessions of a Video Vixen by Karen Stevens, read by me. Okay, first chapter is And Life. That's what it's called. October 2001, I was lying on the hard, cold floor in the bathroom of the famous Chinese bistro, Mr. Chow in Beverly Hills. I don't know why that happened. Anyway. It is one of the most upscale and renowned restaurants in the world, yet I was at the lowest point in my life. With my head next to the toilet, I was alone in debt, with no friends, no hope. It had been a long, hard trip that had led to this fall. It was a wild roller coaster ride, which included some of the hottest names in hip-hop and Hollywood. For 2 years, I rode it out. I was in the middle of it all, dining with P. Diddy, partying with Vin Diesel, going one-on-one with Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, we're getting into some names, we're getting into some tea. Good. I had money, 3 cars, a condo, and a prestigious neighbourhood. A nanny for my son. I'm not feeling so sorry for you right now. I had starred in some of the hottest music videos with Jay-Z, LL Cool J, Ja Rule and Ludacris. Starred in them, darling. She's starred in them. She's a star. Anyway, I'd even co-starred in the blockbuster film A Man Apart, opposite Vin Diesel. But here I lay on a cold bathroom floor, hugging the toilet's frigid porcelain, completely hopeless. I was broke, homeless, and probably dying. Dramatic. Is she a Gemini? Joking. The last thing I remember was my body shaking violently as I sat on the toilet with my head in my hands and my friend Eva hovering over me, asking me if I was okay. But now I was on the floor and she was gone. Can I move? Was the only one thought swirling through my head. Okay. I tried to say something to make sure I was alive. I couldn't. I tried to move my leg. It worked. I stood up gingerly and made my way to the sink. I looked around the small, one-stalled bathroom. It was dimly lit and tiny, yet elegant. I held onto the sink, looking at myself in the mirror. My pupils were fully dilated, and I could feel my knees wobbling beneath me. I splashed cold water onto my face, hoping to snap out of trouble I was so obviously in. All right. I looked at my jewellery and clothes. I still wore the diamond heart pendant and the canary yellow diamond earrings that my ex-husband had given to me years before. My ring and bracelet were gifts purchased at Tiffany. My long nails were perfectly French manicured and my hair was long and black. My skin had been tanned by the Miami sun and my eyes were grey thanks to the coloured contacts. My face was made up to perfection, compliments of MAC and Chanel. My jeans were $200 pairs by fashion icon Marc Jacobs. And the rest of my ensemble followed suit. Everything was designer made, from my jewellery to my makeup to the clothes I wore, even the I consumed. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor again. When I came to from another bout of convulsions, my tongue was swollen and, I crawled from the floor and made my way back to the sink to splash more water on my face. I desperately wanted someone to walk in and help, but no one came. I began to panic and thoughts of the late actor River Phoenix racing through my head. Thoughts of him seizing outside the Viper Room, not too far away from where I was on Sunset Boulevard before. So he was a young actor that had an accident with, and ended up outside the Viper Room in Los Angeles in the 90s. It was really sad. He's got a famous brother though. I can't pronounce his name and I'm not going to embarrass myself. I thought of how awful it would be if I, in the bathroom of Mr. Chow. I thought of the irony of it all. All of the paparazzi waiting outside for Nicolas Cage and LL Cool J, who were both in the dining area eating with friends. I thought of how pretty and rich I looked, yet my life had become ugly and poor. But the most prominent thought was my son, Naeem. My nanny hadn't heard from me in months. Wow, months. What? And had no idea where to find me. Damn. No one even knew my real name or where I lived or who my family was or where I came from. To them, my name was Yusette, a name that I had made up when I was 16 during my years as a scripper. I thought of Naeem and wanted to live. I thought if I screamed his name as loud as I could, God would hear me and allow me another chance at being his mother. God had to know that despite everything I had done up until this point, I loved my son and wanted to do right by him. I stumbled into the bathroom door, opened it and began to scream his name into the stairwell that led downstairs into the main dining area of the restaurant. I screamed his name over and over until my voice was gone. It's not the black woman in Mr. Chow having a complete psychotic breakdown. No one heard me, thank God. I stumbled back into the restroom to splash more water on my face, hoping the water alone would be enough to reverse what I had done. It's not holy water, darling. My heart was racing, and its beat was all I could hear in my head. There were sweat beads on my face, my mouth was dry, and my vision blurred. My body went into convulsions 3-4 times, each time landing me on the cold, hard tile. No one was there for me. I was going to alone. 1 year earlier, no one could have told me that my life would turn out this way. I was invited to a function one Friday night in October 2000 at the Sky Bar, located on Sunset Strip. I reluctantly met an acquaintance there and quickly began to mingle. In order to make the best out of what promised to be a boring evening. The crowd was very stuffy, and I found myself yawning in between conversations with a concert pianist and a score composer. After an hour of walking around, sampling the vast array of mediocre hors d'oeuvres and oversized apple martinis, I was ready to go. As I searched for the acquaintance who brought me to the event, he came up behind me, grabbed my arm and pulled me towards the pool. "I want you to meet someone," he said. "Gary, this is Yusette. Yusette, this is Gary." As I said before, Yusette was a name and persona I made up when I was 16 and ran away from my father and wanted a new identity and hopefully a new life. I landed in Los Angeles. Gary was handsome, dressed all in black and of medium build and height. He was soft-spoken and reserved. As we began to talk, we realised we shared the same sentiments about the function we were attending. We laughed at each other's silly anecdotes and soon found ourselves exchanging phone numbers. After the function, we all headed over to the local club called Nora's Cafe. There, we continued to sip martinis, and at one point, I'm sure I climbed to the top of the table and started dancing. Okay, bad girl. It was a night to remember, but by the following morning, I'd forgotten most of it. The next afternoon, I was finally recovered from the night before. I checked my messages to find one from Gary. Initially, I couldn't remember who Gary was amongst the sea of people I had met at the Sky Bar at Nora's Cafe. After a brief moment of recognition, I began to connect the voice to the face. I failed, however, to return the call. That Sunday, while I was driving around West Los Angeles, my cell phone rang. The number was unfamiliar to me, so I answered it with caution. "Hey, Yusette, this is Gary from the other night," said the voice. I rolled my eyes in silent response. I was used to men hitting on me and thought Gary was just another example, but I was wrong. What Gary said next would not only surprise me, but it would change my life. He began to explain to me that he was a film director and that he was in the beginning stages of production on his new film. He wanted me to pick up a copy of the script and read for him. He said there was a part he thought would be perfect for me. I'm unsure what to think and actually doubted that he was a director of any substance. After you've lived in Los Angeles for a while, you begin to take what people say they do with a grain of salt, particularly in Hollywood. Still, that Monday, I went to the address he gave me on Beverly Boulevard. I arrived at the production office and he picked up. Perhaps when one has a difficult start in life, the universe has a way of balancing everything out. I do believe that every cloud has a rainbow and silver lining. I have had many, many clouds, more than most. So yeah, the following Monday, just a week and a half after meeting Gary, I showed up for my first table reading with the entire cast. Gary sat at the head of the table and Lorenz sat directly across from me. I didn't recognise many of the actors there, but I was secretly drawn to a tall, muscular man sitting directly to my right. His voice was overwhelmingly powerful, yet his demeanour was gentle. Ooh, zaddy. From time to time, his shoulders brushed against mine, and I would get a rush. Seriously, this is not me, I'm reading this, okay? My attraction to this man was strong. His name was Vin Diesel. Okay, girl. Coincidentally, my first film shoot would take place just a few blocks away from the house where I shot my first music video. We had been shooting a man apart at Zuma Beach in Malibu. I awakened at 3 a.m. and got into my car to drive to the set. I glided into Malibu by way of the well-known picturesque calm of the Pacific Coast Highway, with the windows in my car down so I could feel the air, brisk and moist with dew. I was blasting my radio and sang along loudly with every song during the 1-hour drive from my condo. I arrived on set and headed directly back to the catering truck for breakfast burrito, then sat in the hair and makeup trailer. I was officially an actress. I felt like everything I had done up until that point, everything that had happened to me, from my abusive childhood, the SA, being a teen runaway, the scripting, had not stopped or beaten me. I had reinvented myself. I was moving on and hopefully moving up. Yeah. I arrived at production office and picked up the script. Once in my car, I began to read it and was baffled because the character I was to be reading for, Candice Hicks, appeared nowhere in the script. The very next day, I was called to read on camera for Gary and the producers. I read lines for another character while trying to conceal my nervous stomach and dry mouth. Just as with many other things, I performed without thought. I read the lines through a few times, and that was it. I was done. Gary walked me out to the hallway and thanked me for coming by. I was still unsure of what I had just done, what it was really for, and who I was dealing with. But I began to get a clue once he mentioned that I was up for the role of the wife of Lorenz Tate's character. Lorenz Tate was a name I knew from his previous movies, so the project became a bit more legitimate and real. Had I known how big this opportunity really was, I might not have gotten through the audition. On the Thursday after we met, I received a call from Gary's production office telling me I had been cast as Candice Hicks, the wife of Demetrius Hicks, played by Lorenz Tate. They said the part would have been written for me. I was thrilled. Although I'd acted all throughout my school years, and being in films was something I had always dreamed of, it was never something that I felt was an achievable goal for me, but here it was. After I digested everything Gary's crew told me, it finally hit me. Gary was famed director F. Gary Gray, who had done Set It Off, Friday, The Negotiator, and would go on to direct The Italian Job and Be Cool. Ooh, I like a lot of those movies, especially Be Cool. I was going to be part of a big budget New Line Cinema production